I recently got to spend 4 hours with Star Wars Outlaws earlier this month and came away feeling confident that the title is on the right path. You are Kves, a scoundrel with a heart of gold and a fancy ship you just stole. This is a Ubisoft open-world game with a mix of Red Dead Redemption and what feels like an enormous budget. It's coming out in roughly a month or so let's go over every non-spoilery detail of what I got to experience in the XboxEra hands-on preview of Star Wars Outlaws. My preview began with Kves, a shaggy-haired scoundrel waking up from a crash. It appears that the game will begin with you stealing a special ship from a very bad man. I played the game over Ubisoft's cloud platform and proceeded to immediately ram my speeder bike into a tree at full speed. Star Wars Outlaws is a full-on Ubisoft open-world title. I know that can sound scary to some people, but I personally love their games, so it did not for me. Kay is on the run from said very bad man. That ship has crash-landed, and you need to work with the local cartels to procure parts to fix it early on. As luck would have it, a talented Rhodian engineer quickly joins your team, and you'll set off for the nearest city to try and find exactly what he needs. The speeder bike is your ground mount, offering up a high-speed traversal that felt a little finicky at first when I tried to drive it like a warthog from Halo. Once I got the controls down, it felt great, and using a Red Dead Redemption Deadeye-style mechanic, I was able to quickly dispatch some local villainous scum while mounted on it. You will have a constant cute companion, standard for all Star Wars games, named Nix. This little cutie can distract guards, claw their faces to stun-lock them for you, and retrieve or open items in areas you cannot reach. Kay's abilities in the parts of the game that I got to play mainly consist of punching people that have either been stunned by Nix or are just unaware of her presence, shooting suckers dead, or stunning them with a second firing mode that's got a little bit of a cooldown to it. You'll do a lot of climbing and clambering thanks to Kay's trusty grappling hook and seemingly infinite grip strength. I had a few times where I fell to my death before realizing I could spam the button that was prompting the grappling hook even when it was off the screen. Utilizing developer Massive's gorgeous Snowdrop engine, the game looked awesome. I only played on the cloud at 1080p and a low bitrate, and the footage provided for this preview is of a similar quality. Still, I could tell the game is going to sear my eyeballs once I'm playing it natively. Cities felt large, and the areas between them are even bigger. With so much space, the devs have made sure to include a large number of varied side activities to tempt you off said golden path. I gambled on race, played various in-universe arcade games, and was repeatedly tempted to play Sabacc, the Star Wars in-universe card game that has been faithfully recreated here. As my time was limited, I focused on the main quest and found a standard mix of objective and gameplay types. It takes place on the ground or in your ship, and will be flying a little later on in this preview. Kay will have to utilize a mix of enormous vents, nearly blind guards, Nix's adorable face, and a lot of tall grass to sneak her way around certain environments. You will be constantly playing the various cartels off of one another, and that first main mission saw me working for the Crimson Dawn, led by Kira from Solo: A Star Wars Movie. To gain the parts I needed for my ship, I had to sneak into the Pike base for them and steal some info. I was able to keep things quiet using stealth to make sure no alarms were raised. After getting in and finding the info I needed, I had a choice. Do I tell the Pikes what the Crimson Dawn wanted and also share some extra info I found about a particular Pike who was up to no good for his fellow Syndicate members? Or do I give everything to the Crimson Dawn and call it a day? Kind of feels like you'll never be able to up your standing with all of the cartels, but damn it if I'm not going to try. Kay, as all the marketing material has made very clear, eventually gets hired to pull off an enormously complicated heist and starts to form a crew. At this point, I got to head out into space around the first planet and took on some Imperials. Space movement in combat is a simplified version of something like Starfield or Star Wars Squadrons. Your main focus is on moving and aiming, and it's like the crew's handling all the subsystems you might find in the more sim-focused space dogfighters. It felt pretty good, looked really good, and sounded exactly like what you want a Star Wars game to sound like. Whether it's fighting the Imperials, cartels, or more, it always felt great. In a quote-unquote nearly native environment on the cloud, I was clicking heads and combat rolling around like an idiot. If you have played The Division, you'll know that Massive understands third-person shooters. Unlike that title, there is no press this button to go into cover though. Instead, you just crouch down, and thankfully most of the environments just happen to be roughly K's height when doing so. It felt natural, and the perspective helped a lot with how often the game offers up the ability to complete objectives stealthily. You can go in guns blazing, though doing so will make things tough. You have a limited number of heals at any given time, and K is not a Wookiee. Hand-to-hand, at least early on, only works if you're surprising someone or Nyx has latched onto their face. Also, the game feels big, like there's a ton of side content and various systems to engage with. You can upgrade weapons, unlock different firing styles, and if you've played Ubisoft titles, you know that they have put their gigantic development teams to work. Every part of this game felt really polished, like a very large number of hands had been over each and every aspect. Wrapping things up, I was hopeful that Star Wars Outlaws would be the dream regular person living in a universe far, far away game that I've always wanted. And from what I've seen so far, it's living up to those expectations. This is the seedier side of Star Wars, with no Jedi political intrigue or the Skywalker family dominating every aspect. It was only a small slice of a large pie, but damn if it doesn't have me ready to dive back in for more. Star Wars Outlaws releases on August 30th for Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 5, and PC. So keep an eye on XboxEra for review coverage closer to launch.